Welcome back. My name is Dan Sokulski. I'm a recovery support specialist in Central Illinois, member of the McLean County ROSC, Recovery Oriented Systems of Care, which is basically a community coalition of volunteers that get together to try and bring a holistic program of recovery solutions to people in early recovery. So trying to help them, support them from employment to sober living to sober recreation, spirituality. So one of our things here is this YouTube channel. We're glad you're here. We hope you're checking out other videos. We did a previous video that basically made a distinction between the real alcoholic or addict and the hard drinker or problem drinker or user. Sort of the big takeaway was if you are the real alcoholic, you qualify for that. You put alcohol or drugs in your system and you lose the power of choice. Then a recommended approach is a 12-step program. I'm not here to push 12 steps, endorse it. I'm just saying that in my experience, when I finally did work a 12-step program and committed to it without one foot in, one foot out, without using half measures or middle-of-the-road approaches, recovery came so much easier. And there's a lot of, despite being in treatment a bunch of times and being in AA, I still for a long time had misconceptions about the steps. I'd hear them, sort of I could parrot them, I'd carry around a book which mostly collected, dust. I had a sponsor and title, but I really wasn't, fully willing and open to work in this program. And I finally got to a point where I was done. I couldn't go on. I was either going to die or lose everything I had. And it seemed like a good idea to at least be open to working 12 steps with a sponsor. And lo and behold, spiritual experience started to set in pretty early, within about 2 months, and it's been 5.5 years, and I haven't had a drink or a drug since May 11th of 2015. So here we are. I'm not going to write out all the steps. Our producer is going to put them on the video so you can see them as we go through. The first step is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. So it's a two-part thing there. We're admitting to ourselves that we're alcoholics, and we're also recognizing that our lives are unmanageable. And that unmanageability includes all of the different consequences going in our lives, the employment problems, the relationship problems, the legal problems. Those are all sort of external things. For me, all those things were going on, but the real problem, was the fear and the anxiety that set in. Is really just fear, and it manifested as depression, anxiety, not being able to participate in life. Can't even go put gas in my car without having to get loaded first. Couldn't do the most mundane things, just could not. Morning would set in, I'd hear the birds chirping, and that was terrifying for me to face the day. So what we're really talking about here is just honesty. One thing I should have said is the steps were not created by, they were created by AA in terms of how they were, the wording that was arranged and the order and that kind of thing. But the ideas, the actions, the principles and virtues behind the 12 steps are time-tested ideas that have been around since the dawn of civilization. They're things that people have been doing for thousands of years to feel better about themselves, to connect with other people, to grow along spiritual lines. So AA did not invent these ideas. They just sort of packaged them in a way that alcoholics at the time and addicts could buy into. Well, step one, I'm really just saying that I'm honest. Most importantly, honest with myself. Okay? And in the book, on page 30, it's the beginning of the chapter 3, more about alcoholism. It says, most of us have been unwilling to admit we were alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. So again, we're almost classifying alcoholics, addicts, as a different species or type of human because something is different with our brain and the way we react to this stuff. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. Does that sound familiar? The idea that somehow, someday, he will control his and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it to the gates of insanity or death. What I'm about to read is exactly what we need to do for step one. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently may be, has to be smashed. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking or using. Put in whatever your drug of choice is there. We know that no real alcoholic or addict ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. What we're talking about there, that word, we need to concede to our innermost selves that we are alcoholics, that we are not like other people. We cannot drink or use with impunity. We can't just, have 2 on a Friday night, We can't just get an 8-ball and have it last, for an entire weekend or week or whatever. We get it, we put it into our system, our brain, something happens, we go into overdrive, the obsession kicks in, and we've lost control, okay, the power of choice. So what it's saying here is we need to get honest with ourselves that we can't do this on our own. We can't stop on our own. We need to be honest that we have to ask for help. And there's other principles behind the steps. Honesty is probably one of the primary ones, but there's also a lot of surrender and open-mindedness, and courage also involved with step 1. But again, it's just about saying, I can't keep doing this, and I need to try a different way. Okay? So step 2 is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Now, step 2 is something that we literally can work in a matter of minutes. Bill Wilson works a perfect step 2 in his story when he's meeting with Ebby Thatcher. Step 2 is really just about having hope. I've come to believe that some power greater than me can restore me. It's not saying any kind of religion. It's not saying any particular kind of God or deity. Some power greater than me. So what is a power greater than me? Going to my home group or a meeting with a group of other recovering alcoholics or people with substance use disorder is a power greater than me. Nature is a power greater than me. Going to a concert with music and the energy of the tunes and the people and the harmony, that's a power greater than me. People generally are not a power greater than me because people are human and therefore fallible, it's not even saying I need to understand what this power is. When we're sort of at step 2, we're probably in our first couple weeks of recovery, or maybe we're still in treatment. Nobody is expected to understand our higher power at that point. A lot of times we sort of, at least I used to, speaking for myself, put on this facade that, yep, God's my higher power. That's what everybody else is saying. It seems to be working for them. But I was really feeling nothing. It was just talk. I didn't understand it. I didn't feel a connection to it. I was just going through the motions, really. But at this point, I was internally, I was telling myself I'm doing something wrong. I'm not feeling this higher power thing. I'm fine saying it. Again, I was raised religious. I was raised Catholic, so I wasn't foreign to the idea of, praying or talking about God. But I never built a relationship with God through religion. It just was a little bit too mechanical and sort of forced on me. But all I have to do here is have hope and an open mind that there's something out there bigger than me, and it's okay if I don't know what it is right now. All right? So Bill, as I mentioned, worked a perfect second step. There weren't even steps at this point. He was bickering with his old friend, Ebby Thatcher, who they kept, if you saw the video on the history of recovery, you might recall they kept butting heads on this God thing. Ebby came to Bill and was fresh-skinned, glowing, and sober. He'd found God. He said he'd found religion. For him, that was the path he chose through the Oxford group. And Bill just wanted to get him drunk. He was happy to see his friend, but he just didn't want to be lectured to. He didn't want to be judged. He didn't want to hear about God or religion. He was thrown out a couple times, Ebby was, and then he finally came back with Seaber Graves and some other guys from the Oxford group as backup. And finally it was just, Ebby was sort of exasperated and just said, why don't you choose your own conception of God? All right, I'm tired of us sort of getting locked up at this point. We got to move past this if we're going to introduce this program to you and get you to a point where you can be sober. And Bill says, my friend suggested what then seemed a novel idea. He said, why don't you choose your own conception of God? And Bill goes on to say, that statement hit me hard. It melted the icy intellectual mountain in whose shadow I had stood and shivered for many years. He says, I stood in the sunlight at last, and here he works step 2 without even realizing it. He says, it was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required to make my beginning. I saw that growth could start from that point. Upon a foundation of complete willingness, I might build what I saw in my friend. Would I have it? Of course I would. So he's not saying what his higher power is. He's not atheist. He's at the very least agnostic. He's been to World War I. He's seen the nightmares of trench warfare, and he's suffered in his alcoholism for a couple of decades by this point. He's fallen, taken a large fall from the heights of Wall Street to having to move his mattress to the bottom floor, so in some delirium he didn't jump out a window and kill himself. He's burned all his bridges and business and friendships and family. And he just says it was just a matter of being willing to believe there's something out there. So if you can ask yourself, am I at least willing to consider the possibility that there's something out there bigger than me? And if you can say yes to that, then you've worked step 2. So it's not just that there's something out there bigger than me, but there's something bigger out there that can restore me. Insanity, we're not necessarily talking about like straitjacket, Baker Act type, insanity. We're just saying the insanity of active alcoholism or addiction. Choices or lack of choices that we face, the symptoms that come out through our behaviors, things that we do to people closest to us, the logical situations that somebody would look at from afar and be like, how could he have done that or she could have done that? That's the insanity we're talking about. So step 2, it's just about hope that there's something out there that can restore me. Step 3, made a decision to turn my will and life over to the care of God as we understood Him. Now, I was one of these guys that would just get so caught up in step 3. And I hear this a lot, working in a treatment center, working with sponsees. I'm just stuck on step 3. I can't get past step 3. And I was like that for years. I would say, and I wouldn't keep doing the work to do my 4th step and my 9th step, my amends, and service and the other things involved with this recovery program, because I was caught up on that part at the end where it says, made a decision to turn our will over to the care of God as we understood Him. And again, I took that as I need to understand God. A month, weeks, couple months in, I didn't realize at the time I was in the perfect place, not understanding God, not having a relationship, having doubts. I didn't realize it though. I thought I was missing something. Other people are talking about how God does for them what they cannot do for themselves. And by the grace of God, they were able to walk through such and such situation with their dignity and their sobriety intact. Again, I was just parroting what I was heard, but I wasn't taking the necessary actions. I wasn't understanding the simplicity of the steps, and I was totally overcomplicating it. I was literally overcomplicating the stuff to death because I continued to drink, continued to use, because I was stuck doing that step 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1 step shuffle. It was finally pointed out to me, the most simple thing that could have ever been described, and probably one of the biggest landmark breakthroughs in my recovery. Step 3 is just saying we're making a decision. Okay? We're making a decision based on the principle of faith. Making a decision to keep working my program. It's not about understanding my higher power. It's not about being able to stand up on a soapbox and have the most elaborate and descriptive explanation of what my higher power is, or the fanciest sort of cosmic entity that binds and ties together the galaxy and the universe. It's just about having faith that it's okay if I don't understand my higher power, but I do at least have hope because I believe there's something out there bigger than me. And if I can't buy into something like God, I can at least buy into a group of 10, 20 people around a room of other alcoholics or addicts talking about their problems and mutually supporting each other. That is a power greater than me. And you go to just about any meeting in the world and you're going to feel spirituality surging through that room. And so I'm making a decision to keep working my 12-step program for me. If you're in smart recovery, you're just making a decision to follow that program. If you're in recovery dharma, you're just early on making a commitment to, follow that program. And so in addition to faith, it's obviously also a lot of courage. It's a lot of open-mindedness, and it's certainly willingness. It's all about willing to keep, working my program, trying to do what I can to be of service, continuing to go into meetings, continue working the steps with my sponsor, continuing to practice prayer and meditation, continuing to read out the literature, continuing to do other things that help me feel good, whether that's like diet, exercise, hobbies, that kind of thing. Because it's okay. I'm in a place where I understand finally it's not about having the answers. Nobody has the answers at the beginning, all right? We could be 25 years into this and we don't have the answers, and that's fine. But I have faith that more will be revealed if I keep working my program. And if I can make that decision and then match it with action, then I'm good. We can make decisions about all sorts of things. I, could have made a decision to meet with Angelica to come here today to take this video, but if I didn't actually show up and, stand here and talk, then it's not really a decision. It's just something that I said I'd do, but I didn't follow it up with action. So it just ends up sort of falling apart. There's no payoff of it. So we got to match our decisions with our actions. Recovery, in my experience, always boils down to what actions I'm taking. If I'm sitting there thinking about recovery or thinking about the deeds that I want to do, or sort of in my head about what's a good idea that I should do for myself for my recovery, that rarely gets me anywhere. But when I start actually taking action and calling people and meeting with people and doing things, then I instantly feel the that power flow in, which is coincidentally one of the promises of step 3. We talked in the previous video about the real alcoholic, the 9th step promises and the 10th step promises. Promises for step 3, one of them is that we will begin to feel new power flow in. All right, so by this point, we're starting to feel that higher power work in our life, whether we realize it or not. We just probably start feeling better. Our spirit is starting to awaken. Maybe we can stop and smell the roses a little more. We're laughing again with people. We're able to do some, participate in life, in some fashion without having to use or drink. And that is the beginning of the spiritual experience. We want to kind of take this stuff in little increments, bite-sized chunks, rather than overwhelm you with everything about the 12 steps. We are going to go through the rest. For this video, we just wanted to stay on the first 3. We'll get into 4 and 5 next, and then we'll do 6 through 9, and then 10 through 12 in subsequent videos. So hopefully this helps you simplify. There's really not anything that you need. There's certain assignments you can do with a sponsor. For example, what helped me when I was at step 1, working with the sponsor down in Florida, he had me just make a list of what I wanted from recovery. Okay, whether it was peace of mind, internal things like losing fear, being able to face, situations and look people in the eye, or repairing my marriage, or getting off probation. Those are some examples. And that kind of just helped me buy into why I'm doing this. All right, am I really doing this for myself? Sort of checking my motives. And I realized that there was a lot to gain from recovery, and that sort of kept me going. Step 2, my sponsor, one of the things I did was read chapter 2 in the 12 traditions, 12 and 12 steps and 12 traditions. And there's 5 different types of people in there with who came into the program, came into recovery, AA specifically, with reasons that God, higher power, spirituality would not work for them, prejudices that they basically had about it. There was the intellectual, scientific-minded. There was the belligerent, anti-religious type. The person who had faith and lost it. The person who continued to believe but still kept on drinking. And he just had me identify those and write about, just a paragraph, half page about which one that I related to most and why that had been a barrier to my continued sobriety up to that point. And that sort of helped me recognize the hang-ups and sort of prejudices that I had, reasons why 12-step program's not for me, because if I'm being honest, I was truly atheist by the time I was in and out of treatment centers and went to that long-term treatment the last time. My life was falling apart everywhere. I had no desire to do anything. I didn't really want to live, but I was chicken to die, that kind of thing. And so that kind of just gave me hope that there's all sorts of people. It even says in the big book that nearly half of us came into the program, and we agnostics with basically an atheist or anti-religious, anti-spiritual mindset. So that gave me hope that there's other people like me, and maybe this can actually work for me if I keep an open mind and I'm willing and I'm honest and I do the work, take the action. And then for step 3, it was looking at my life, list all the examples where now looking back that I've had a couple months of sobriety and I'm starting to see little instances of a higher power working in my life, and write a list of where now I'm willing to consider the possibility there was something bigger than me working in my life. Whether it was some weird situation that I chalked up to a coincidence, or some arrest I thought I was lucky and avoided, or just, whatever it was, make a list of those things. And I thought it would be hard, and it ended up being a lot of them, way more than expected. And that gave me faith that there is something working in my life. Whether I realized it at the time or not, maybe I thought it was coincidence or synchronicity or the stars aligning, whatever. But really, if I kept an open mind, maybe there was, maybe God was looking out for me. Maybe He did have a path for me, and those things that I went through, those things that happened, were all part of that journey. So again, we got to keep this stuff simple. There's really not any required writing. We're not doing any inventories yet. It's just, can I get honest that I can't do this on my own, that I need help? Am I willing to believe there's something out there that can restore me, even if I don't know what it is? And can I just keep doing the work, make a commitment and decision, matched with action, based on faith, again, that more will be revealed along this journey. So that's it for this video, steps 1 through 3. We will have some more again. Like I said, next one will be 4 and 5, and we'll just keep on going until we get through them. Very grateful for you being here. Hope you all have a great day, and give us a like if you do in fact like this. Take care.